People with weird, obscure jobs. What is your job and how did you get the job? Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the Vancher channel. Also, please share your thoughts on this video in the comments. Let's get started. Story 1. I work in QC, quality control, for media. In one company, they occasionally paid me to watch adult content to make sure it was in sync and in good quality for video on demand distribution. In another company, I spent years watching movies before release in secure theater-like rooms to make sure the files are ready for distribution. Subtitles and audio in sync, no picture corruptions, stuff like that. I always got to watch the biggest movies of the year in a giant screen weeks before they were released, sometimes months. I got the job by going to film school. Story 2. I was a puppeteer for many years, and I actually got that job from an ad in the classifieds. It cracks me up that there is a scene in Being John Malkovich where he tries to find puppeteer in the classifieds and fails. Answer. I used to be the assistant to the feline ambassador for an art museum. I was an assistant to a cat puppet. They had had so many terrible puppeteers because they were hiring acting students from a local college. They wanted to be the show. No, the puppet is the show. You're just there to carry them around. The puppeteer should be almost invisible. Story 3. I work in a clinical lab where I get to play with baby sweat for a bit of my day. We are testing for chloride level. Increased chloride in sweat is one of the diagnostic markers for cystic fibrosis. I am a clinical laboratory scientist. Not all clinical labs perform this test, but I am lucky enough to work at a lab where we do a couple interesting low-volume tests. Story 4. I work in a lab where I raise moths. I got it by telling my lab partner that I love bugs and he hooked me up. Answer. For someone like me, who is terrified of moths, I would be rather homeless and jobless than do this job. Just the idea of being in a room with one moth is terrifying. Like it makes me gag, makes me feel like I'm going to vomit, and at the same time, I tense up but want to scream. I have goosebumps. I start itching all over and I'm jumpy. It wouldn't even be a choice for me. I just have to be homeless and jobless. I have so much respect for you for having the balls to do this job, but I hope we never meet. Story 5. I spent a year on a team reclassifying the Duke University library system from Dewey Decimal to Library of Congress. Had to learn like 4 different alphabets just to label them properly. Edit. Holy mother. Didn't think anyone would care, but I can explain a couple of things. 1. Duke University has one of the largest research libraries in the world, with millions of books. In addition to the main library, we went through engineering, biology, art, and divinity. There was also another main library on East Campus. The whole operation took about 2 years, I think. I was there from December 2006 to February 2008 when the project ended. 2. The Dewey Decimal System works perfectly well for small American libraries that cater to an English-speaking, Judeo-Christian populace. The Library of Congress system is more egalitarian, and perhaps more importantly, has unassigned sections for disciplines that have not yet been discovered. Large university libraries and other world-class collections are better served by the LOC system. 3. I don't quite remember the number of people on our team, but it was about 15 of us doing the physical labor. We were a company that did contract work for libraries. We mostly labeled books, scanned barcodes, and reshelved. 4. The reason I learned those alphabets was because we had to meet production, and the barcode sheets only used the Latin alphabet. Most of the time, the barcodes on the book and the labels matched, but sometimes they didn't or were missing altogether, and then you'd have to waste precious time figuring out what was going on. I'd scope ahead when we were about to hit a section in another writing system to make sure I was prepared. Story 6. I'm a hostage survival trainer. I was working in international development within IT and was asked to go and sort out the finance system in Iraq back in 2007. The ministry I was working in got attacked by a militia, and myself along with my 4 guards got captured. Over time, the guards were eliminated, and I got released in an exchange deal after being held for over 2.5 years. I did an AMA about it some years ago. Story 7. Concrete petrographer. I just started this month. I studied geology in college, and now my job is to look at concrete using petrographic methods I learned at school and conduct ASTM tests to determine quality of concrete. Very interesting work because concrete is engineered rock, and there's a lot more to it than you think. Story 8. I'm a house manager for a family of 4. Basically, I'm a female butler. I've worked for them for 14 years, starting as the kids' nanny. They're my second family, pretty much. I organize tradespeople, Holidays, birthdays, daily meals, dinner parties, housekeeping, the list goes on. It's challenging at times but keeps me on my toes, and I enjoy that. Answer. Actually, house managers are quite common in the SF Bay Area. As well as the duties above, a house manager is often used to protect the identity of the homeowners. My work order shows the HM's name, and the bill is always paid by a check written on the HM's own account or a credit card with only HM's name on it. I never know who the actual client is, and the houses are always sanitized of any identifying items. Story 9. My dad told me of this one time he went to my mom's work Christmas party. She was a banker. As the bankers talked shop and tried to sound impressive, the spouses grew bored and talked among themselves. The guy who drew the biggest crowd was this man who worked at a toilet factory, and he did quality control. His job was to flush toilet paper and simulated poop down the toilet. The people at the party, especially the men, were riveted by his descriptions and peppered him with questions, while all these upper management bankers looked on with irritation. Story 10. So not job, but company, industry. I was their first marketing person. I worked at a company that specialized in phased array ultrasonic, non-destructive testing. The technicians made a shoot ton of money and got to work in crazy places like nuclear power plants in Canada and offshore oil rigs in Norway. They even worked on some of the NASA launching pads. Story 11. Official court stenographer. I type everything everyone says in court. I was told about it in high school and thought it sounded cool, so I went for it. Took 12 years in college, but I am nationally certified to type 260 WPM and regularly push above 300 WPM in court. Story 12. I clean grills for super rich people in Palm Beach. Even got to clean Michael Jordan's at one point, and it was recommended to me from a friend who was in sobriety with me after I got clean. Story 13. Past job. I worked at a whorehouse. I was the receptionist. Guys would come and I'd buzz them in after confirmation of their appointment from the intercom. They would enter, check ID, get them a water or pop, take payment. Then I'd call the girl from the intercom, and they would lead him to the room. It is technically an adult massage parlor. I applied off Craigslist, went for the interview. Only real rule was receptionists cannot become escorts, and escorts cannot after chose to be reception. Answer. I dated a guy who was the manager of a massage place. When we started dating, he told me he managed a spa. It wasn't until later that I found out what it was. I spent a lot of time there while in university. It was quiet, well, in the front office, and I could get so much reading and work done. I also loved hearing the women who worked there chit-chatting about things that happened in the rooms. Story 14. I work as an air traffic controller. Not weird, but not many of us around. I pretty much fell into it after passing an aptitude, and it's just been swell since. Albeit the classic phrase from strangers, "Isn't that the job with the most suicides?" It might be, but I don't know anyone. It's actually super chill and rewarding when you get it right. We always try get it right, but when you get it super right, you're dead pleased. Story 15. I don't know if this is obscure, but my boyfriend is a high-rise window cleaner. There are only 4 in our city. He loves his job. Sometimes when he is working, I will go to the city to the building he is cleaning and look up at him on the street. So cute. Edit. Only 4 high-rise window cleaners. We live in a small Canadian city. Also fun fact, one day I was in the city and he was on his lunch break, so he took me on the roof of the tallest building and fudged me doggy style looking over the city. Answer. There's a writer called Cixin Liu who's written a set of stories called Wandering Earth, centered around humankind managing to power the Earth out into the galaxy to escape a hostile sun. Anyway, in one of them, the protagonist becomes a high-rise window cleaner. The high-rises are super high sci-fi high-rises. He then ends up going up into space with his crew of window cleaners to become space cleaners, where they clean this big mirror, which is used to reflect light down onto the Earth. Story 16. I'm a potter. Not sure if that fits the bill for weird. I used to be the manager for a museum art school and began taking classes there years ago. Eventually transitioned into being a full-time potter and pottery teacher. Story 17. Not terribly weird, but definitely unique. I own a handmade business and I make cool things out of felted sheep's wool. It started so I could have extra cash to pay off my nursing school loans. Then I quit my nursing job. Now I am a top 1 seller on Etsy and get to sit around and craft fun and colorful items that I ship all around the world. Story 18. In the summer, I guard and clean the toilet units, not the toilets, for festivals. I got the job trying to find a cheap way to go to the big festivals, and this organization was looking for volunteers. So all I have to do is stand in front of the units, make sure the ground stays clean, everyone had toilet paper, and clear a block of units so the cleaning team can do their job. Another part of the job is making sure no one dies or passes out in such a unit. You can't imagine how many tipsy, often naked people we need to get out of these units and adult worker them to the first aid. Story 19. Mine isn't necessarily weird, but how I fell into it was. Around 10 years ago, I was working in the IT industry. I decided to help my dad out one weekend, sell hunting gear at a Militaria Expo. Basically antique military gear and army disposal. One of the sellers had a Vampire Eliminate kit. Knowing very little about antiques at the time, I pulled out each piece, checking them over. The story checked out, did some research on my phone throughout the day, and found out that it could be a fake in two ways. It could be a kit put together by someone out of antique pieces to make it seem real. And technically, even if it was authentic, it was a Victorian fake. With the fear of vampires in the late 19th century, con men put together Vampire Eliminate kits and sold them to rich businessmen visiting Europe. What stood out to me, though, was the main reason I bought it. In the middle of the kit was a crucifix with an ivory inlay that doubled as a god-darn percussion pistol. Long story short, I took a chance, spent $1,000 on it, and got persecuted by my father for such a dumb move. I didn't have much in my savings at the same. I took it to Ripley's Believe It or Not in Australia, and they flew someone out from the US to look at it, which was pretty exciting. Within 5 minutes of looking at it, they offered me a ridiculous sum of money for what I thought was a large investment to begin with. While in ways I do regret selling the kit, it allowed me to start a career in the antiques trade. 5 years later, I moved to the UK to study a degree, and now I specialize in rare, obscure antiques that have allowed me to travel all around the world sourcing new weird objects. P.S. Don't worry, I gave my dad a cut of the vampire kit profits for believing in me. Story 20. I mix fire retardant for fighting wildfires. A lot of people know that airplanes drop retardant on fires, but don't think about the millions of dollars of infrastructure that is behind that operation. Everyone who works at my base started by working at the local ski resort. It's a good way to earn enough money in the summer to coast all winter, so we keep the jobs among fellow ski bums. Story 21. I design water parks. I went to college for graphic design and advertising. In my last year, I had to do an internship, so I took one at an aquatic engineering firm to help organize photos. 10 years later, I am a project manager and create resort deck and water park programs. Story 22. I used to cut pictures of wee-wees and ho-has off packaging of adult toys. All day, every day. I got the job by being able to pass a substances test. The interview. Boss, can you pass a substances test? Me, yes. Boss, you sure? Because if you don't pass, I won't hire you. Me, I understand, boss. If I pay for your piss test and you fail, I'll be mad. Me, I haven't smoked in like 3 months, don't worry. Story 23. Diver. When I was 13, I started diving, and in the Army I did it too. So I love my job now as an underwater worker. Story 24. I have a job tracking rodents in restaurants. I set up cameras, movement sensors, IR sensors, and other gear, and get an idea of the problem and how to fix it. Here's a video of a couple of teenage girls checking out one of my cameras. Sometimes I'm in a hot roof area of a restaurant trying to get the super rats to back off and let me work. I use a Bluetooth speaker and Prodigy on full volume. Who knew rats don't like Prodigy? Despite that, I love my job, and the pay is pretty good. Answer. I worked in a restaurant with a rat problem. A very popular, extremely busy restaurant with dozens of rats running around at any given moment. The location was a perfect storm of roof rats, garbage rats from the underground dumpsters, and ocean rats from being nearby a popular tourist beach spot. There were multiple traps under every booth, and they were triggered so often that every morning the openers would have to pull apart every booth, and a pest guy would clear them all and reset. The smell of a dead rat is so unique. IDK what makes it different than other dead animals, but I could pick it out of a blind smell test. Story 25. I used to be a hand model. Apparently I have really good-looking hands, although they look completely normal to me. People were always asking me how I got into it, so it was fun to bullshit people I was discovered on the street. Now I moisturize 15 times a day and sleep with my hands in plastic bags. The money was great, but I'd have to spend long days on set, being careful not to wreck my manicure. which they paid for, of course. Also paid for the time it took to get the manicure. Mostly did TV commercials. Now I tell people at parties I'm a retired international hand model, but gave up show business for the much more worthwhile and rewarding career of teaching kids to read. Story 26. I'm a Chiron operator. I trigger motion graphics on live TV. I was an art student and also was in stage crew in high school. These things got me jobs backstage in theater, which got me a job in TV doing normal stuff like cameraman and stuff like that. Since I was an art major, I asked if I could do graphics, and they let me on the weekends. And my specialty eventually turned to the Chiron, which ingests the graphics that artists make and plays them back through the switcher that controls the news broadcast. It's not technically an art position, but at my job specifically, I could make the graphics in After Effects and Photoshop during the day if I have a computer free, and in the afternoon I play the Chiron. Usually you are one or the other, because Chiron operators don't need art skills. It's just another tech job like audio operator or camera operator or stage manager or whatever. These kinds of jobs are getting rarer because they are being automated. But since I'm also an artist, I get to keep my job because if someone leaves, I can take their job. Story 27. My parents are escape artists and escape consultants. It's quite a niche in the magic world. My dad started as a magician doing birthday parties as a teen, then got really into escapes, then became the one guy designing and consulting on escapes for famous top magicians. Story 28. I have been an online community manager for over 20 years. I started in video games and moved into technology companies. I've worked on everything from Star Wars to telecommunications networking equipment and software that help companies move data fast. It started as a hobby. I was a web developer, so very fluent with the web. Started a fan site and grew up at large. Moved on to volunteer for another game company who eventually hired me full-time. TLDR. Turned a hobby into a career. Story 29. I'll answer for a friend of mine, former college roommate. He works for a company which makes coin and paper money sorting and counting machines. They pay him to stay home and be on call. He's a happy guy. I don't know how he got the job, but he's extremely mechanically inclined and pretty inventive, though calculus tripped him up and he failed college. When he was in high school, he mounted a model rocket like a hood ornament on his car, controlled by a button on the dash. Push the button and it fires the rocket. Story 30. I'm an assistant curator in numismatics. Basically, I manage our museum's collection of ancient coins. It's a small museum, which explains why I even have this job, as I'm not a professional numismatist. But we have a pretty sizable collection of mostly Roman coins. But we also have Greek, Hellenistic, Byzantine, medieval European, Chinese, Islamic, and Crusader Kingdom coins. I catalog coins, appress them, do any research that is required, and help incorporate coins into our exhibits. I also do educational outreach, so I hold workshops for our volunteers and the public. I work with professors in the history and archaeology departments of the university we're attached to in order to help them incorporate numismatics into their curricula. Edit. Forgot to add how I got this job. Basically, I came to university and decided to volunteer with the museum because I like history. I did tech support for the first year, and then the director asked me if I would like to train in numismatics. I said sure. 5 years later, here I am, managing the collection. Full-time in the summer and part-time during the academic year. Story 31. Cameraman for live PD. Went to film school to make movies, then slowly worked through Ice Road Truckers, Axemen, Boston's Finest, and Night Watch. Found out I have a perfect blend of art and athleticism that can be hard to find. Story 32. My job is to find old, sometimes obscure, and sometimes BC titles of abandoned video games, then buy the rights and revive the IP, now venturing into cartoons, comic books, and toy lines. Story 33. Not weird, but pretty rare. I'm a professional winemaker. How I got it. I have a university degree in winemaking, viticulture enology from University of California, Davis. Worked many harvests. Now I run my own winery. It's my dream job, and I made it happen. Story 34. I make whiskey. Not super weird, but I'd say on the rarer side of jobs. And it took a shootload of time, luck, skill, and perseverance to get where I am. Story 35. I work as a handyman at a hotel. We do everything from maintenance to build mobile bars in funny shapes. We basically just do what the manager wants us to do. So we get funny projects like installing LED and 24/7 music into old broken jukebox machines. I was just lucky a former person quit, so I could take the position. Story 36. I do closed captioning for in real-time phone calls. You've probably been captioned before and didn't know it. Edit. Clarification. I caption verbally into a computer program. I don't use sign language, though would love to learn. Story 37. Stagehand. At least I was pre-COVID. But anyway, I set up everything from huge concerts and Broadway shows to small private events and interviews. It's a wonderful job and I love the people I work with. Story 38. I used to do artificial insemination and embryo transfer on cattle. I got it by being tipsy at a party. Coolest job I ever had. Story 39. I had a summer job where I transcribed interviews for a professor of mine. The interesting part was that the interviews were with political people involved with 911. Andy Card was my longest one. He tends to stutter when storytelling. Story 40. I analyze satellite imagery for the government, but not quite in the way you may think. Instead of foreign target assessment, I look at U.S. crops. When a farmer has a loss and files an insurance claim that is subsidized by the U.S. government, we need to ensure the claim is legitimate and that tax dollars are not being partied too hard. We also do damage assessment after catastrophic weather events. We use weather data, multispectral satellite imagery, aerial imagery, production data, site visits, and so on. If there is enough evidence, we build a case, then hand it off to the Office of the Inspector General and U.S. Attorney's Office. It is different from day to day. I get to learn about a lot of different crops and get out and about, see where our food comes from, and meet a lot of good producers. Story 41. My ex-roommate worked as a security guard at Turtle Store. Why there was a store that sold turtles exclusively, I do not know. And why they needed a daytime security team, I will also never understand. He said he mostly sat back and watched an indoor turtle pond all day, and there was only 2 other employees, but they made tons of money selling turtle care supplies and turtles. They went out of business and he lost his job, but it's a hell of a story. Story 42. A friend's sister is a customer service rep for a company that recovers lost, stolen medical equipment on airplanes. As for how she got the job, we have no clue, and she majored in museum studies in college. Answer. Sounds like someone smuggling international antiquities in the inner chambers of old X-ray equipment. Step 1. Steal something metal, expensive, and mostly hollow. X-ray machine is good, because who's going to X-ray an X-ray machine? Also, it's made of the stuff that make airport security devices go bonkers. Or more accurately, contains trace materials of the stuff that make airport security devices go bonkers. These devices sniff out the nitrogen and other chemicals on golf bags and use golf clubs all the time. So an X-ray machine will be given the medical equipment version of a UN passport. Like a god amongst mortals, it will completely bypass security. Step 2. Ship this stolen medical equipment to the place you are illegally exporting stolen artifacts. Then snitch. Allow the police to find the equipment in an abandoned car or in an abandoned warehouse. They take it back to police station. Enter the serial number in the database. Step 3. A few hours later, your friend's sister calls the police station and claims to be an agent who recovers lost stolen medical equipment and transports them personally on airplanes. She sets up a meeting at the airport where she will personally examine and presumably adult worker the equipment back to the country where it rightfully belongs. Step 4. At the airport, your friend's sister then stashes priceless cultural artifacts inside the medical equipment before it is loaded onto the plane and flown to the desired destination. Step 5. Back home, your friend's sister arranges to return the stolen X-ray equipment back to the hospital where it was used to help doctors heal sick children and elderly people with life-debilitating illness. It's on the truck between the airport and the hospital where your friend's sister then retrieves the priceless cultural artifacts pillaged from indigenous peoples or historically significant museums and sells them on the black market to substances dealers, misogynistic movie executives, or globe-poisoning oil barons. When the medical equipment finally is returned to the hospital from which it was originally stolen, medical engineers inspect the equipment and most likely determine that it has been tampered with to the point of being inoperable. Because the hospital is privately owned, the device is illegally dumped in an unscrupulous landfill on a moonless autumn evening, where it will slowly degrade until the trace elements of uranium TC-99 make its ways into the water supply of rural communities. Oldest grift in the book. Story 43. I transport horse embryos, oocytes, and semen. I got the job because my sister is an equine vet who specializes in reproduction. Story 44. I used to digitize my local newspaper's old photo negatives for the local archives. I got to see the most amazing snapshots of everyday life and how my hometown lived through and reacted to major world events, such as the world wars and the rise of technology and innovation. It was a great job, and I got to bring the pup to work. Story 45. From 15 through 18, I worked at a glorious dog daycare in a huge air-conditioned building. With so many dogs, I worked for them 21 years ago, and they're still thriving. I see employees around town wearing the shirts. Pay me to pet dogs? How could you say no? Answer. Wish I had the same experience. Love the dogs to passing, but my boss, owner, was a horrible, horrible person and put us and the dogs in dangerous situations regularly. I ended up having to quit after she wouldn't tell an owner her dog needed stitches. We could see bone. It was a deep cut. And the manager ended up going over her head and sneakily telling the owner. Next time the dog came back, he had 8 stitches. I couldn't agree with her anymore. Putting us all in danger was bad enough, but she played vet nearly as often. It was infuriating. They're still open and I dislike it. Edit. The groomer she had worked out of the back of a van never listened to what we asked him to do. He would always rile up the dogs, and when there was one person in a zone and 60 dogs, it wasn't fun. And the dogs always came back bloody and with the same haircut. It's a shame, knowing we are one of the better daycares in the area. Story 46. I am studying conservation and restoration of patrimony. I have entered to tombs with archaeologists, and I am the one who get the bones out, stabilize them, and make them presentable for museums. Also, I worked in a church. I had complete access to all the rooms, so there are like hidden halls and basements, and it's usual to find skeletons or ancient things in there. The atmosphere is quite creepy, humid, and dark. Story 47. In college, I was a private pictures model for life drawing classes. My mother worked in the university art department and told me they had an opening for models. I posed clothed at first, then bit the bullet and posed private pictures when the instructor couldn't find anyone else to take the job. He was extremely professional and maintained a comfortable, non-intimacy atmosphere in the studio. I never became what you'd call an exhibitionist, but it certainly helped me become more comfortable with my body. It was always fascinating to circle the studio on a break and see how the students would draw different poses from different angles. I did it for 2 years at minimum wage, but it was one of the best jobs I've ever had. Story 48. Not my job, but the product. I sell toilets to companies that want to be sustainable. Washrooms are the place in a building where most of the water is used, and within the washroom, it's the toilet that wastes the most water. We should all be preserving as much water as we can. So my company does it with toilets. It's not something anybody really thinks of, but there is a lot of wordplay and fun to be had. My fave line is, saving the world, one flush at a time. Story 49. Super small, organic farmer was born into. It's been going for 3 generations, counting my cousin's children. Story 50. I recently started working in a carrot factory. I stand at a conveyor belt as carrots roll past me and pick out all of the moldy ones. How did he end up in this job, you ask? I decided to do an arts degree and now have no career prospects. In all seriousness, though, I work with a lot of migrant workers who work extremely hard doing a job they are accused of coming to this country and stealing. Answer. I very nearly had the same job in a pineapple factory. I passed the interview and physical tests. Then they noticed I had kitchen experience and put me in the cafe instead. Then they learned I can't use an industrial coffee machine to save my life, so I got bumped over to the outlet store. I still met a lot of the process workers, many of whom were from the Philippines or Indonesia, and were lovely women. Very practical, too. Story 51. I manage a motel and marina in a vacation town in Wisconsin. We're directly on a large lake and we're popular because golf around here is good, and we offer a free boat slip to any guests with boats. So fishermen and boaters can keep their boats on the water throughout their stay. It's not very common to have a motel that does this. I got the job because my parents live in the area, and they sent me a photo of the job listing. It said the manager gets to live for free on the lake in an expensive town in a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment. I have 2 associate's degrees in IT, but I did it out of practicality and not passion. I have an appointment to take my Drone Part 107 test, and I want to start my own drone business. Shameless plug, futureflightfilms.com. I also get to take our rental pontoons out when I have some free time. Work is crazy in the summer, but in the off-season it's so slow, and I have a lot of downtime, which is nice. My boss is great and doesn't helicopter. The pay isn't amazing at $25K a year, but since I don't have to pay rent, mortgage, or utilities, I do pretty well. And during the virus, I had the job security and steady pay, so I was very fortunate. Edit. Mobile format for my website sucks RN. I don't have my Part 107 yet, so I haven't put the final touches on the site or updated the photos in a minute. Story 52. I was a relay operator for the deaf. Basically, deaf people would dial in with a text telephone, and we would act as their voice. We would then type back responses from whoever they called and facilitate a conversation. I did it in both English and Spanish and did translation. By the time I quit, I could type one thing in Spanish while saying something else in English without looking at my hands. You quickly learn that most people are boring. Scammers suck. They use relay to hide a foreign accent. And there would be the occasional hilarious call to keep it interesting. The job was advertised in local papers and they were always hiring, so it was an easy get. The company I worked for went out of business, but you can get relay on your phone line from anywhere in the USA by dialing 711. Story 53. I perform necropsies, animal autopsies, on zoo animals. Everything from stick insects to elephants. Was a zookeeper for close to 10 years, then kind of fell into it when looking for other jobs to build an alternative skill set while staying at the zoo. Story 54. Used to be a ghost tour guide at a reconstructed 18th century fort. Best job I ever had. Got to meet thousands of people every summer and heard tons of great stories. Also saw some amazing sunsets. The ghost stuff was pretty cool too, but the people were always more interesting. Just got the job because my best friend was a guide, and she told me they couldn't get people to stay because they were too frightened. I stayed for 6 years and only left because I had to. Story 55. I used to take pictures of asteroids, calculate their trajectory, and submit it to a database that watched for asteroids who might hit the Earth one day. I got it my first day of a blow-off astronomy class, used as a free science credit for the athletes, when the professor asked, "So who here actually cares about space?" I was studying physics with an astronomy specification, so it raised my hand and he said, "See me after class," and gave me the job on the spot. Taught me all the math too since I was only a freshman. I had that job for almost my entire college career and loved almost every second of it. Story 56. For 4 years, I was a fake priest in Japan. I first worked for a company making $90 to $100 for a 15-minute ceremony. When I found out I could cut out the middleman, I started on my own and started making $200 a wedding. I remember one day I had 6 weddings back to back and made $1,200 in a day. This was huge back when I was living in an English teacher salary in Japan. It was so much fun. The brides were more than often super hot, and so were many of the guests. I felt like Jesus, but kind of dirty. There was one time when the Japanese family was actually Christian, and they freaked me out when they actually started singing along with our hymns. I had to remember not to make the Catholic cross gesture because I was dressed like a Protestant. It really threw me off my game. One time I had to read a scripture in Dutch. I told the organizer that I don't speak Dutch, and they told me just to make it up. So I went full Swedish chef, and everyone loved it. It was definitely one of the coolest and easiest money jobs I have ever had. I also got huge discounts and free parking at the hotel I worked at, along with free bento lunches each day I worked. 1010 would do it again. Story 57. I'm an aide on the school bus. I handle bad behavior routes and special needs children. Basically a bus babysitter. Story 58. I host a travel show on Kazakhstani national TV. I like languages and had moved to Kazakhstan to learn Kazakh. And a producer saw me being interviewed on another program and DM'd me on Facebook. Now we've shot 3 seasons and explored nearly every region of the world's 9th largest country. P.S. This is not a Borat joke. PPS. Please no Borat jokes. Story 59. Mechanical design engineer. Currently, I am the guy that plays Factorio in real life by dictating where conveyors go, how they are supported, and designed in some cases. Story 60. I specialize in reducing energy consumption in cold storage facilities and grocery stores. I stumbled into this line of work because I am a geek and I get excited about the work, and an engineer gave me a shot on a project 12 years ago. I knocked that first project out of the park and it hasn't stopped since. I get excited about saving my clients a ton of money on their utility costs. It still makes me feel good when they see their first bill after the project and they tell me how much they are saving. I'm sure they think they are being scammed, or I'm overstating the savings until they see that first bill. I am a dweeb, but I'm a happy dweeb. Story 61. Online freelance tutor who works the night shift. You'd be surprised how many college students are desperate for essay help at specifically 3 a.m. Story 62. Working in college student affairs is kind of weird, what I do. Most go to school for a master's degree to enter the field, but it's a job or profession that no one talks or knows about until they fall into it towards the end of their undergraduate career. It's laughable how many in the field have this story. It was my senior year of undergrad, and I was just a couple months from graduating and work in X field with my degree. My on-campus job supervisor approached me and asked, "You're really good at this. Have you considered working in student affairs as a career?" I said, "No, what's that?" They explain it's what they do and what they got their master's in. I said, "You can go to school for a master's and do what we do as a career." They said yes. So I said, "Son of a meanie, I'm in. Now I'm here." Story 63. I work as an in-house lawyer in a luggage company, and I write and update terms and conditions, from products to website. Living the dream. Story 64. My grandpa told me that he was employed as a condom tester when he was young. No, not like that. Apparently he had to blow them up like balloons using a machine to see if there were any holes in them. Story 65. I am a mascot assistant for a professional sports team. I act as a bodyguard, driver, office assistant, laundry person, contact with clients, fan interaction, loading the t-shirt cannon, helping with skits, and other things. I applied and had a performance background. Story 66. My job basically boils down to finding cool stuff and selling it on eBay. I work for a recovered rich hoarder selling the stuff he collected over years. We have multiple buildings dedicated to stuff piled on top of stuff. Even worse, a lot of expensive items are just sitting out open to the elements. Most of the things are expensive test instruments that would make old-time synth users drool. I've found musical instruments, factory equipment, cars, even medical equipment. Whatever it is, we clean it up, take photos, document it, and post it on various selling outlets and auction sites, including Facebook Marketplace. That place is utter hell. I found the job through Indeed. The pay was great for our area, and they even offered a sign-on bonus, which is again unheard of in our small town. I got the job because the manager liked me more than the guys they interviewed, and I had a can-do attitude when they showed me the literal massive amounts of items I'd be cataloging. Story 67. I work in a forensic social care housing, which is a home with a mix of guys with life sentences which they have served and now have nowhere to go. Guys who can't live on their own due to their risk of offending, and guys who have maybe, compared to the lifers, committed less serious offenses but need to be rehabilitated into the community. It's a real mixed bag. And sometimes there are guys that can't be helped and go back inside. And sometimes there are guys that respond well and get to live independently. There is never a boring shift, that's for sure. I have a psych degree, but I actually found this job by accident when I was deep down the rabbit hole of trying to find a new job to escape my old one. Story 68. I was cutting grass with a pair of scissors for like a whole week when I was the handyman of a budget bed and breakfast. The owner didn't want to pay to hire a lawnmower and couldn't figure that the math of paying me $12 an hour for a week of full-time work was actually more expensive than hiring a lawnmower and getting the job done in half an hour. Story 69. Waiting on that one person that always advertises writing her smut for money in these threads to come. Answer. LOL, already found her. BDSM author. I was working full-time at an office. One day I got a mental breakdown and decided to work part-time, 50, and become a writer. I went to one of the best schools for writing in my country. I had promised myself to only write normal things. Absolutely not any norm-breaking stories about sexuality and/or power dynamics. My fave line is that it took 2 years to be a smut writer. It took 2 years. Then I sort of outed myself as a fetishist. Story 70. It's my part-time business right now, but I own a cast iron restoration company. We strip and clean rusty and cruddy skillets, Dutch ovens, and other cookware, then re-season them to preserve the pieces. It was a hobby that turned business. Story 71. I design action figures for a major entertainment brand. I went to school for industrial design. About halfway through, I realized toy design was a thing and went for it, with the dream always being one of three things: Lego, Hot Wheels, or action figures. After graduation and internships, I took every job in the toy industry I could and made sure I was ready if the opportunity ever presented itself. One day, a recruiter contacted me on LinkedIn, and the rest is history. Story 72. During the fall and winter, I'm an actor who plays the role of the conductor from the Polar Express. I have to punch tickets, fun but weird party trick, help the passengers board the train, and do the hot chocolate dance, just to name a few things. Really fun job, and my train almost always needs more chefs. Story 73. Financial controller, license holding insurance. Adjuster branch manager for an environmental contracting company. We do biohazard, trauma, HAZWOPER, water damage, fire damage, mold damage, and lead abatement services. About 98 is billed to insurance carriers. My job is regulatory compliance with certifying entities: IICRC, OSHA, NAIC, IICRC, and NORMI. Financial reporting and management. Writing and settling estimates, adjusting losses, tracking justification and documents, etc. Honestly, I just kind of went down the rabbit hole at a job where I used to be a staff accountant. Had an opportunity to advance. Now I know weird things like how aspergillus is 2.5 to 3 microns in size. Licensed mold remediator, mold assessor. And blood droplets require removal of carpet pad in a 2-inch radius or 2 feet radius for 58 or 12-inch sheetrock. Certified trauma biohazard technician, OSHA 40 HAZWOPER. Story 74. I make cannabis edibles, specifically gummies. I had previous production experience and applied at the right time. Too bad it's always a shit show. Story 75. Not me, but my son-in-law has an interesting job. 5 days a week, he drives a refrigerated truck all over our county and 2 neighboring counties to veterinary offices and some farms to pick up deceased pets' livestock, usually cats, dogs, horses, and a variety of other small animals. These were beloved pets of the owners, and he brings them back to where he works. They have the only animal crematorium in 3 counties. He then prepares them for cremation and afterwards boxes the ashes for delivery back to the clients, or puts them in chosen urns, etc. He is a very respectful and empathetic man. Even when the families are not present, he is respectful and gentle throughout the process, treating them as if they were his own. Even though some days he is allowed to wear jeans or t-shirts because he is working alone, he never has. He always wears his iron-proper uniform out of respect to the families. He is a good man, and even though he is only 32 and a muscular 6 feet tall, he has the perfect, soft-spoken attitude that people trust. He is awesome. Story 76. Not super obscure, but not super common. I'm a helicopter flight instructor. I climb into tiny little helicopters with folks who have no idea what they're doing and let them scare the shoot out of me so they can learn. I love it. I got my ratings through a community college that partners with a flight school, and now I teach at the same college and school. Story 77. High-rise window cleaners, specifically bosun chair rope rider. And I met my boss fresh out of prison at an AA meeting. Been clean and sober for 4 years now. I have a house, a car, a dirt bike, a dog, and I am a productive member of society, instead of falling back into the revolving door of the system. All thanks to hanging off buildings, an employer willing to take a chance on a felon. Edit. Thank you so much for the award. It is certainly a unique job, but for me, I never felt like I fit into normal jobs. So I was open-minded enough to try it out. I instantly fell in love. I couldn't imagine sitting at desk all day. I would rather be in the wind and rain hanging off a building than stuck at a desk. Story 78. Moved back home in the spring and was offered a job at a flower farm. Been doing it 6 years. Hope to do it forever. Story 79. I'm an audio transcriptionist, which isn't that exciting. I type up audio files for everything from courts to PhD students to insurance companies. But during one transcript, I came across a guy whose job was restoring swordfish bills, especially antique ones. So yeah, His job is to restore and preserve the swordfish bills hung on walls in bars, in museums, in rich people's houses, etc. Apparently, there's less than half a dozen people in the world that do it, and people will freight swordfish bills to him from all over the world. No idea how he got that job, but it's the most unique job I've ever heard of. He also restored shark jaws, but that was a bit more common. Story 80. My niece has a job where they process bones for use in donation surgeries, cadaver bones. Her job is washing all the flesh off the bones. She says it's horrible. Her husband quit. Story 81. I predict when people will die, in a probabilistic sense. My second cousin had the same job and I thought it sounded interesting. Story 82. I'm one of the last remaining full-time drawbridge operators. Most have gone to automated. I got the job because I'm a state employee, and that makes our salary public knowledge in my state. And I seen a guy who made a ridiculous amount of money over 3 years and found out what he did. Story 83. I'm a construction photographer with a particular emphasis on the industrial side, though I do end up with regular commercial jobs too. So taking photos of hydroelectric plants, water sewage facilities, water mains, factories, foundries, etc. Lots of stuff with security concerns, which means you have to walk a line. But still, it's a lot of fun and really interesting. I just got contacted one time for a hydroelectric gig, had a lot of fun, so things have kind of grown from there. Story 84. Obligatory not me, but my mom. My mom used to be a pretty highly regarded trombone soloist that broke a couple glass ceilings. She's performed in the same venues as artists like Adele. That's the only one I can think of at the moment. LOL. She won't be well known to the average person because it was all through the Salvation Army. But if you know anything about their music program, Mum was the first woman in the ISB, International Staff Band. Story 85. I'm a composer for casino equipment. I write, perform, and record the tunes you hear in slot machines. I was asked by the owner of a slot machine company to design and run an audio department some 16 years ago. Thought I'd be there for 3 months. Story 86. I worked as a game master or GM for an obscure MMORPG title that 99.9% of gamers won't know because honestly, it was a small shoot game from a shoot developer. I got the job from applying to a job posting on Indeed from a publisher that had just purchased the IP for the game for the North American market. My job initially was localizing the game from start to finish from Korean to English. While localizing things like monsters, NPCs, towns characters, items, and skills were all easy and fun, localizing the quests were pain in the butt and very time-consuming. I'd say it was more akin to translating a book than a video game. We worked from multiple Excel files that were often tens of thousands of lines long. So as you can imagine, localizing a MMO from start to finish is no small feat. And our game wasn't even a big title like WoW. After the game was fully localized and launched, I then transitioned into the role of GM. Being a GM is exactly what you'd expect. And it was hella fun being able to literally play God in the game. I remember equipping my secret account with godly gear and just PKing the shootout of players we didn't like. Mostly cheaters, gold buyers, and just BM assholes LLOL. Remember guys, the GM or GMs are always around you. We're just invisible and chooses not to show ourselves. Story 87. I used to sell cheese curds at local county carnivals all over Minnesota and work the roasted corn stand at the Minnesota State Fair. It was long hours, but well worth it for the stories and adventures. Story 88. I sew blood vessels together to stop people's feet from rotting off. Well, that's just one of many things I do, but it's one of my favorites. I am training to be a vascular surgeon. I am a resident physician, which means I have already graduated from medical school, but am not yet licensed to practice independently. Vascular surgeons are like plumbers for the body's arteries and veins. We clean them out, reroute them, connect them together in new ways, and sometimes even remove them altogether. I will never, ever get over how much fun it is sewing one blood vessel to another so that we can save an ischemic limb or make a fistula or fix an aneurysm. I got into it by going to med school and being curious and stumbling into this specialty. Story 89. My first job was as an employee for Netflix, back when streaming was still a newer thing and they primarily mailed DVDs out. The job itself was to sit in a warehouse, opening the envelopes and checking the discs for damage. Since the job involved opening mail and sending it back out, it meant I had to be at work at 3 a.m. when the truck carrying the previous day's mail came in. Apparently, this was an obscure job because I've had to convince every job interviewer I've talked to in the last 10 years since I worked there that yes, that's a real job that existed, and that if I was trying to pad my resume with fake jobs, I'd pick more convincing ones. I got the job through a temp service. My second job was at a local wreath-making business run out of a guy's house in the woods in the middle of nowhere. The owner was an old hippie, and he had a small room at the back of his one shed with grow lights in it that he was very insistent we not look in. Considering he also had a sizable greenhouse and foraged a lot of his plants from the woods. Well, worked. Legally, I was a paid volunteer. I got that job because my brother was working there and put in a good word to the boss. I lost that job because I sucked at it. Technically, I still had the job longer than my brother, who was fired an hour earlier because he was a 16-year-old who wanted to go hang out with his girlfriend instead of work. When I was fired, the boss told me, "Your brother was amazing at the job, but had a shoot work ethic. You had an amazing work ethic, but sucked at the job. I wish I had an employee with your brother's skill and your work ethic." I took it as a compliment, my brother less so. But now he's a boss that has to deal with lazy teenagers, so. What I'm saying is that part of the reason I was unemployed for so long was because my first two jobs were both obscure and seemed fake. Story 90. I'm a hull cleaner. I dive under boats and clean off all of the algae and other growth. Also, I replace sacrificial anodes on the propeller shaft that prevent the metal from decaying. Story 91. You know those badges you show to electronic card readers and they open the door? I make those for a medical school and research campus. I got the job by being a 911 dispatcher for that same campus. Getting cancer. Whoops, getting chemo brain, which rendered me unable to dispatch, and being a reliable enough employee that the electronic security department took a chance on me. For now, I get to work from home with the badge-making program instead of having public contact, which is great because couch is life and I have no immune system. Story 92. Senior reactor operator. I supervise a group of more professional Homer Simpsons. I have gone to about 5 years of focused training classes to work through the ranks. It helps if you have naval nuclear experience. Engineering is a solid way in the door as well. You can take the longer path, as I did, and go to business school. Story 93. Headstone designer. I create laser etchings and run the machines. Ex-old boss got me the job because I once designed him a logo. If anyone has a better joke than, "People are dying for my business, I'm game." Story 94. I'm a welder. Every couple of years we get a contract to build repair on installations. Coolest job I worked twice was welding pipe inside site. That mountain and the structures inside are a marvel of engineering. Story 95. Not sure if it's obscure, but I run a pet sitting business. I'm 24 now, started doing it when I was 19, and it turned into a legit job. I juggled it with a full-time job for years until 2020, when I started doing it full-time. It's awesome. I get paid to hang out, take care of dozens of critters. I'm paid well for it, and I choose my own schedule. I'm working on getting it legitimized, all that jazz, but I'm basically a professional dog lady. It's great. Story 96. Not quite as interesting as other things I read, but I know my job is weird even for those I work with constantly. I'm a social worker in the care of the mentally and/or physical disabled. I do tons of things. No day is the same, really. But I'm really the guy who gets to hang around everywhere and listen, and make sure everybody involved in a client situation is happy and chasing the same goals. That's not really something you can measure, so I get why some of my coworkers don't really know what I do. I also do lots of paperwork, like just did the taxes for about 50 people. Best part of my job is working with a family and getting someone, old or young, into a situation where they receive full-time residential care with us, lightening the load on the family, and often providing a more stable, intensive environment for the person with a disability. I rolled into it by choosing a major during the last day of enrollment, was on benefits at the time and supposed to look at working option. Did not like that and enrolled. Got lucky that the lady at the benefits office was understanding about my desire to learn. Really enjoyed my internship in a facility for the disabled and really just never left. Got the job because someone got pregnant. Story 97. Not me, but my husband. Arcade game technician. Started off working at Aladdin's Castle and worked up from there. Now is an owner, operator, and does in-home sales and repairs. Story 98. Not weird, but somewhat rare. I run a brew lab and teach people about beer and brewing. I went to college for microbiology and biochemistry, but didn't finish. I was a server at a sister establishment and impressed management with my encyclopedic knowledge of beer, earned by drinking titanic amounts of it. They moved me to the brew lab as an assistant. I did that for 3 years before the head brewer, my mentor, stepped down. Now I run the place. I'm 28. The schooling actually comes in handy now. Who knew? I love my job, but haven't loved them all. Don't get stuck in a career you dislike, and don't ever let a hangover keep you from going to work. Story 99. At one point, me and my friends were hired just to go out. Our job was to just be at a bar to make it look full. We didn't have to do anything else but have fun and dance together. So guys would see the bar full of girls and come in and spend money and drinks. We didn't have to talk to anyone. We didn't even have to be nice. Just make the bar look full and fun. All our drinks were free for the whole night, and our ride was provided too. We were getting paid $50 an hour, and this was around 15 years ago. Best gig ever. Story 100. I used to work at an intimacy toy shop. I originally worked at Pizza Hut, but my boss had gotten mad at me for dropping a pizza after he shoved into my hands, and so threw a hot pan at me, which resulted in me quitting. I was desperate for a job and applied to a bunch of jobs. And just to say that I applied everywhere in town, I applied at the intimacy shop. I ended up working there for 9 months, but quit because a man grabbed my jerk and I wasn't allowed to retaliate. So I quit so I could punch him in the stomach. Story 101. I work at and help manage the oldest haunted hotel and tavern in the state of Indiana. That place has definitely given me plenty of odd stories to tell, LOL. Story 102. I work on a boat as a deckhand, so normally I take fish off hooks and stuff, but after the captain was told that the rudders and propellers need to be cleared after every stop he asked, and I volunteered because I've done swim team for most of my childhood and am a strong swimmer and can hold my breath for a while. So I tether to the rail on the boat and dive in with a knife, literally taped to my hand, and start cutting fishing line from the rudders and propellers. It normally takes me about 20 minutes, and then I come back onto the boat and go back to taking fish off of hooks and stuff until we raise anchor and move to another spot. The boat is an old ferry from like the 40s that was used to get back to the mainland. So it's got a front rudder and prop and a reap rudder and prop, and it's about a 65-foot boat and about 24 feet wide. I get paid $5,000 a week at the ripe age of 17, so I think this is what I'll do for the rest of my life. Story 103. I'm a luthier. Basically, I fudge off in high school and played guitar instead of doing my homework. Built a guitar for my senior project, and it snowballed from there. Now I do instrument repair and restoration 40 hours a week, and I build my own acoustic guitars and ukuleles. It took me a lot of work to get to the point where I can make a living on this. I've been doing it 10 years, and I'm still learning new things. But darn, I really enjoy what I do. Story 104. Probably not as weird, but I have been a concept artist in the video game industry for 8 years. I have 9 shipped titles and 3 unshipped titles. Story 105. I do network filtering for schools. I'm the guy that stops your kid from looking at adult content when they're supposed to be in class. How I got it. A recruiter asked me if I was interested, and I said I was. Story 106. Mines Rescue Officer. I'm a paramedic firefighter, but I specialize in underground environments, specifically hard rock mines. I'm trained to fight underground fires, perform rope rescues, extricate casualties from heavy vehicles, think big mining trucks, conduct search and rescues in underground mines, etc., etc. I started by volunteering for remote area road crash rescue in addition to my normal job, mechanical engineer, and off the back of that experience applied for a mines rescue role that appeared in a local newspaper. I didn't think I would get the job, but did. From there, they paid for all of my additional training. Then I studied paramedicine to increase my medical knowledge. Story 107. I build transparent boxes, fill with water, blow air bubbles through it while illuminating them with colored lights. I travel around the country installing them. Started out by being too cheap to buy a lava lamp. Story 108. Not sure how obscure it is, but it's not very common, I'd imagine. I'm an electronic warfare consultant who advises military programs on how to design and employ radio frequency technologies on aircraft and weapons to increase survivability and lethality. How I got the job is probably the most common part. Electrical engineer by study, bachelor's and master's. Got involved in a specific branch of the military and learned a lot about their applications. Fast forward a few years and now people listen to me. me. Funny how that works. Story 109. So pretty much everyone is Chinese speaking Mandarin and stuff. And then the customer sees me, a black Hispanic male taking their orders and walking among them as if nothing's weird or out of the ordinary. I actually get a lot of questions, like how did I get this job, if I felt weird about it, and that they're proud of me. Honestly, I've been ordering at that same restaurant for the past 10 years now, ever since I was a little kid. So the people at the restaurant recognize me, and we would talk occasionally. I also had experience at 2 restaurants prior. So when we were talking one day, she, the woman who works over there, said, "Hey, maybe you can help out over here?" And yeah, that's how I became that black guy in the Chinese restaurant. AMA. Story 110. I have a cool, interesting call center job that I love even though I make minimum wage. And these days, that is obscure. I had a friend who I knew from school, and he said he had just found a new job in IT. So I sent him a message congratulating him and was quiet interested in the job since I like IT. He went on to say, "Want me to ask if there is any more openings?" Of course I say yes. I spend a day working on my CV, even though I have no qualifications and no experience, and then send my friend the CV asking, "Will this be okay?" He says that he will edit the CV, and the edit I send it off and get an interview. And 2 days later, I get a phone call asking me to start. The weird part is, about 2 years after starting, one of the people interviewing me says, "We only brought you in because it's the worst CV we have ever seen and wanted to meet you. We only hired you because you aced the technical test and couldn't pass you up." 6 months after starting, the guy who got me the job went on the sick for a fact illness and got fired the first decent chance they had. I'm still there with 7 accounts, 8 under my belt at one point, having the best time. Story 111. I used to be a mystery shopper. For those who are unaware, the idea of the job is that you pretend to be a customer at your company, and then you do an assessment of your experience. Most of the time, you go in with a regular checklist, but sometimes you have to do some specific investigative work, such as if there's a lot of complaints filed for uninterested staff. Sometimes, I would even be sent to our competitors and compare experiences. Story 112. I work in an entomology lab that studies locusts, and as of last summer, Mormon crickets. For those of you not acquainted with Mormon crickets, they're big flightless katydids that start marching together in massive bands when their populations get really high. They're a nuisance to farmers since they eat crops, but the real trouble starts when they die en masse on the roads and cause oil slicks to form. If you're up in Idaho and the surround areas, you might see traffic signs that say, "Warning cricket." Story 113. I write barbecue recipes for a random luxury grill brand. They gave me a free grill worth several grand, and I just make dinner with it and then photograph the food and send in a simple recipe for anything. My cousin worked marketing for them and just called and hooked me up with the coolest side gig ever. I owe her big time. Story 114. Comedy writer for an AI. Wrote for a TV show and we interviewed Sophia, a lifelike robot. Show got canceled. Robot people hired me. Story 115. I make one-of-a-kind custom self-defense weapons, custom fit to the customer's specific size and need. Story 116. Recently, I started work for a removal and transportation company that is contracted out to dozens of funeral homes in the area. Basically, upon someone's passing, the family makes arrangements with a funeral home. I then get a text with an address and show up to load the deceased in the van and deliver the corpse to the prospective funeral home. I'm just graduating from college and had a job offer lined up that was ultimately pulled due to COVID-19. I picked this job up when my bartending job in my college town laid workers off in March. Found this work through a family friend to keep some money coming in for the last couple months I was in school. Thought this was going to be a temporary gig until I started full-time after school. I know it is a stretch, but I like to tell people, I work as an undertaker. Yes, it did bother me the first couple of times. Money was good, so I stuck around. Now, I'm fairly comfortable, and it's simply easy money. My one pet peeve is when my coworkers will refer to our cargo by their first name. Something doesn't sit right about, "Hey, after we drop Jeffrey off, do you want to stop for a coffee?" Story 117. I'm an incredibly poor full-time drag queen. I've worked lots of jobs, most recently in customer service for a finance company, but haven't been in work since Feb 11th, although I'm hoping to start training to be a pathology technician soon. Story 118. Mine is kind of an oddball. I'm the head of security at a chemical processing and storage plant. Most people kind of have it in the back of their heads that your average large business facility has, quote, security guards. They're normally the front desk people. They adult worker people out when management wants them gone, etc. We do that, but our main purpose is keeping people safe from the building. Hazardous chemicals and industrial machinery do not like you. They want to hurt you whenever they can. Massive quantities of stored liquid chemicals love to erode valve gaskets and spill, and a big enough spill can utterly fudge a local ecosystem if allowed to go unchecked and enter storm drains or local natural bodies of water. In 2 years on the job, I've been grilled by EPA investigators 3 times, drove a guy ODing on heroin to the hospital while attempting to train a new guy on his first day, and plenty more stories. The job is either boring or fudge insane, and I love it. Story 119. I clean, refurbish, and install chandeliers. There aren't many doing this type of work. We get called to all the super fancy houses and midtown apartments. It's a weird niche job, so advertising is mostly word of mouth. I got in through knowing someone who knew someone, and they gave me a solid recommendation. Story 120. I'm a police chief at a small town. The former police chief said he was giving away his job to the first person he saw. Thus, how I became gainful employed. Story 121. I am a professional pencil sharpener and my wife pets canaries. Why, yes, we did recently move to Bermuda and have a budget of 1.2 million to buy our dream home by the beach. Why do you ask? Story 122. I work in the environmental science field doing everything from stream restoration to tracking down illicit stormwater discharges to reforestation to watershed science research. Undergrad for ecology, natural resource management, master's in fish and wildlife management. Story 123. I'm a clinical chemist, so work in a lab in a hospital performing tests on blood, urine, feces, sweat, and spinal fluid. Got the job after my internship that's part of my education study. Got the education because I love medical biology and blood. Story 124. IDK if you count my job as weird or obscure, but I spray giant cat equipment with rust-proof, then drive it to shipping. Usually work maybe 38 hours on the shift. The rest, I'm on the tubes or scrolling Reddit, and by boss is completely fine, and I make a decent living. Story 125. I bend steel. You would think the job was easy by looking at it, but the reality is that literally everything is a variable from material type, material thickness, tooling selection, to the actual material crystalline structure. Not only that, but all the math is just to get you close. Combine that with the fact that many parts need holes in a specific spot after forming, and you'll begin to understand why nearly all holes are slotted. I work in a job shop doing work for everyone from John Deere to Bobcat to medical structures to bending magnesium alloy armor plate. That shoot is unpredictable in bending. The trade has need for everyone from no knowledge to excessive knowledge. You can do everything from just pushing a pedal to neutral selection and blank fabrication. And it's a dying trade, not from lack of need, but lack of people willing to do it. Story 126. Bit late to the party, but I'm a sleep technician. Not that obscure, but definitely a great conversation starter. So I'm the person who attaches all the electrodes, wires, to you for a sleep study, and then sits at a computer and records all your brain activity and breathing patterns throughout the night. I was lucky enough to get my job because I have narcolepsy. I've had so many sleep studies done and was understood a lot more than most about sleeping disorders. That's it for this video. Don't forget to support Vancher and my second channel, Vancher. See you soon.